The beach is supposed to be safe, until a rotting sea monster the size of a truck washes ashore. From a glowing Pacific footballfish to a hairy, foul-smelling glob that locals feared was a sea yeti, these real-life horrors came crawling out of the deep. What else is waiting to surface? Stay with us as we count down the 20 creepy sea creatures that have washed up on beaches.
Pacific footballfish. What would you do if you stumbled across a freaky-looking fish with razor-sharp teeth and glowing skin just chilling on the beach? That's exactly what happened in California, and folks were stunned. Beachgoers at Crystal Cove State Park found something wild, a deep-sea creature called the Pacific footballfish. This thing looked like it swam out of a horror movie. Jet black, with a big old mouth full of translucent fangs and a glowing lure sticking out of its head, it was nightmare fuel. And get this, it was still perfectly intact. These fish usually live around 3,000 feet deep, where sunlight doesn't stand a chance. So how in the world did it end up on shore? Scientists were scratching their heads too. It's super rare to see one this well preserved. In fact, there are only about 30 specimens ever found worldwide. Yeah, this ain't your average sea bass. The football fish is actually a type of anglerfish. And that creepy glowing thing on its head, that's used to lure in prey in the pitch-black ocean depths. Experts snagged the fish and sent it to the Natural History Museum of LA for study. It's helping researchers understand more about deep-sea ecosystems. But for most of us, it's just a reminder that the ocean is packed with bizarre creatures we barely know exist. Serpent sighting shock. When photos of U.S. Navy SEALs posing with a massive, silver-scaled creature hit the internet, chaos erupted. The beast? A towering 20-foot oarfish, so bizarre and snake-like, people instantly dubbed it a sea serpent. The blog that broke the story claimed the military stumbled across it during a covert ocean mission. Glowing red fins, dragon-like form, and a ghostly vibe only added fuel to the fire. Oarfish are real but rarely seen. These elusive giants live miles below the ocean's surface, and sightings are incredibly rare. When one shows up, especially in the hands of elite military divers, the internet explodes with theories. Cryptid hunters screamed, "Cover up." Others said sea monsters were finally proven real. In truth, oarfish are still a scientific mystery. They're the world's longest bony fish, and some believe they surfaced before earthquakes, linking them to ancient legends. Their eerie movements and otherworldly look keep imaginations running wild. Was it a military encounter with a cryptid, or just a rare brush with deep-sea reality? Either way, this story blurred the line between marine science and monster myth, proving that sometimes the truth is strange enough to spark legends. Eyeless mystery creature. When the storm rolled through and the waters pulled back, something unexplainable lay waiting on the muddy banks. No eyes. Rows of sharp, needled teeth, a body twisted and alien, as if it had never belonged to this world, or at least, not to the part we know. The locals didn't have a name for it. The scientists didn't have an answer. What they found was quickly dubbed the eyeless mystery creature, a riddle torn straight from the Amazon's darkest depths. Dragged from waters that see no light, this creature doesn't just live in darkness, it's built for it. Just instinct, vibration, and the hunger to survive. Its eyeless form screams of an existence far beneath the surface, where sight is worthless and the rules of life bend into something primal. Researchers are scrambling for answers. Could it be a new species? A deep-sea relative of something we thought we understood? No one knows for sure. But one thing is clear. The Amazon hasn't finished speaking. Every time the river floods or recedes, it throws something new at us. Sometimes it's mud and driftwood. Other times, it's this. A reminder that the jungle's mysteries don't end at the treetops. They plunge far below, hidden in waters too dark to trust. Chilean blob. Back in 2003, something super weird washed up on a beach in Chile. So weird, in fact, that scientists were baffled. Locals called it the Chilean blob. And yeah, it was exactly what it sounds like. A massive, slimy, skinless chunk of sea meat that looked like it came from another planet. This thing was huge, over 40 feet across, and weighing in at nearly 14 tons. People thought it could be anything from a giant octopus to some kind of sea monster never seen before. The internet went wild, and theories were flying left and right. For months, nobody had a clue what this gooey sea creature actually was. But after some intense testing, the mystery finally got cracked. Turns out, the Chilean blob wasn't a new species. It was the decayed remains of a sperm whale. Yeah, anticlimactic, but still pretty wild. The tissue had broken down so much it lost all the features we normally recognize in a whale. What made it so tricky to ID? When these whales die and sink, bacteria break down their blubber into a thick, fibrous mass that can float back up and wash ashore. That's what we were looking at. Deep-sea leftovers, basically. Still, the fact that this thing stumped scientists for months proves just how little we know about what the ocean's hiding. The hairy sea beast. What would you do if a 20-foot-long, shaggy sea monster just showed up out of nowhere on your local beach? That's exactly what went down in the Philippines, and the whole town was shook. This giant hairy creature washed up on the shores of Cagdianao, leaving locals totally speechless. It was gray, covered in what looked like thick, matted fur, and reeked so bad that people could smell it from yards away. This thing looked like it crawled out of a monster movie. People were dropping wild guesses. Some said it was a prehistoric beast. Others thought it might be some kind of undiscovered species. The internet? Yeah, it lost its mind. People were calling it everything from a sea yeti to a globster. That's the name for mysterious sea blobs that don't look like any known animal. So, what was it really? Turns out, the so-called hair was actually decomposing muscle fibers, and the creature was likely the remains of a dead whale. The warm tropical waters had broken down its skin and fat, leaving behind this massive, stringy mess. Even though science had an answer, the whole thing still felt like something out of a deep-sea horror flick. St. Augustine monster. Back in 1896, something bizarre washed up on the shores of St. Augustine, Florida. A massive, pale, blobby creature that no one could explain. Locals called it the St. Augustine monster, and it quickly became one of the creepiest ocean mysteries ever recorded. This thing was huge, rubbery, and completely unrecognizable. Some thought it was the corpse of a giant octopus. Others were convinced it was a sea monster, something no scientist had ever seen. Theories exploded, but no one had solid answers. For decades, it remained one of the ocean's weirdest unsolved cases. Eventually, with advancements in marine biology and tissue analysis, researchers figured out that it was likely the decomposed remains of a whale. When large sea creatures die, their bodies can break down in strange ways, leaving behind fibrous, blob-like masses that look nothing like the original animal. Still, the St. Augustine monster helped kick off the legend of globsters, mystery sea carcasses that confuse scientists and spark imaginations. Even today, some of these wash-ups defy easy identification. Montalk monster. Something seriously bizarre washed up on a beach in Montalk, New York, and it had the whole country talking. Nicknamed the Montalk Monster, this creepy, half-rotted creature looked like it came out Area 51 instead of the Atlantic Ocean. The body was small, hairless, and super freaky looking, with an oddly shaped beak-like snout, sharp teeth, and what looked like claws. A few beachgoers snapped photos before it vanished. Someone allegedly took it, and the creature was never officially examined by authorities. Major sketchy vibes. Now everyone had a theory. Most people thought it was a mutated raccoon. Others swore it was part of some secret government experiment from the nearby Plum Island Animal Disease Lab. Social media went off, tabloids ran wild, and it became one of the internet's earliest viral cryptid mysteries. Experts later suggested it might have been a raccoon that had decomposed in the water, which distorted its features. The Montauk monster sparked so much curiosity, it inspired comic books, documentaries, and even made folks look twice at every weird thing that washed ashore after that. Was it just a funky-looking animal gone through rough tides, or proof there's more lurking behind closed doors than we think? Koviers' beaked whale. Open the coastline logs and you'll find a mystery that gripped scientists and left locals speechless. A strange, battered creature washed up on a Namibian beach. No one knew what to call it. It wasn't quite a dolphin. It wasn't quite anything familiar. The photos lit up marine circles, and even the experts were stumped. What they eventually uncovered was shocking. Koviers' beaked whale, a deep-sea phantom built for the crushing black of the ocean's depths. These whales are elite divers, vanishing below the surface for over 2 hours at a time, surviving in places no human could reach. They don't breach often, and they don't beach. Ever. So why did this one appear? Scarred by the sea, its 20-foot body looked almost alien. The rarity of the event set off a wave of theories: environmental disruption, sonar interference, or something deeper, something we don't yet understand. Scientists jumped at the chance to examine the whale up close. It was a moment most researchers wait a lifetime for, proof that even today the ocean's shadows still hold creatures we barely comprehend. The encounter didn't just answer questions, it raised new ones. If this deep-sea stranger surfaced without warning, what else is still hidden, swimming in silence, waiting in the dark? Maine's beast from below. Is this the sea monster Maine never asked for but couldn't ignore? A massive, decaying creature washed up on the shore. 30 feet of twisted flesh, mouth agape like it died mid-roar. Its body was mangled beyond recognition. Fins gone, flesh stripped. What was left looked nothing like any known animal. Locals were rattled. Theories spread fast. Giant eel, mutant shark, something unknown from the ocean's depths. Confusion turned into headlines. Panic brewed in comment sections. When marine experts stepped in, the answer hit hard. It was a basking shark, one of the largest fish in the ocean. These creatures can reach up to 40 feet in life, but in death, their features break down fast. Tissue falls away. Their form distorts. And suddenly, the peaceful filter feeder looks like something from a nightmare. The basking shark lives calmly beneath the surface, feeding on plankton. But when one washes up in ruin, it takes on a new identity: monster. This wasn't just about science. It was about fear, a shape that didn't fit, a moment that didn't make sense. So next time someone whispers about a sea monster crawling out of the deep, don't laugh it off. The ocean doesn't deal in fiction. It just hides the truth in places we haven't dared to look. Giant jelly invasion. UK beachgoers got a serious shock when massive jellyfish, some the size of trash can lids, started washing up along the shore. We're talking full-on jelly invasions, with dozens of these gooey giants flopping in with the tide like something out of a flick. These aren't your average jellyfish. They're barrel jellyfish, and yeah, they can grow up to 3 feet wide and weigh as much as a full-grown dog. Not exactly something you want to bump into during a casual swim. The sightings have been popping up all over the UK, from North Wales to Cornwall. People are calling them monsters of the deep, and honestly, with those huge, pulsating bodies and tentacles trailing behind, they live up to the name. Experts say the unusual surge is likely due to warmer waters and changes in ocean currents. Basically, climate shifts are giving these jellies the perfect conditions to multiply like crazy, and while they're mostly harmless to humans, just a mild sting if you touch them, you still don't want to step on one barefoot. These jellyfish usually stay offshore, so when they start washing up in droves, it's a clear sign that something's stirring beneath the waves.
Let's dive in. It's finally time for the open discussion.
People were sunbathing when a giant monster mouth was found on this beach. It's still bleeding and oozing something thick and black. The beast's twisted horns and serpent tail have everyone asking, is this prehistoric or something new entirely? Who or what could have taken it down and dragged it ashore? And why does its eye still seem to be moving? This isn't just a fish story. Drop your thoughts below. And don't forget to mention #OpenDiscussion. Vala. Keep your eyes on the shoreline, because something strange has been landing, and it's not going unnoticed. California's coastlines have turned bright blue, not from the sky or sea, but from swarms of translucent creatures known as Vala. They don't swim, they sail.
Central Coast beaches over the last couple of days, you may have noticed all of these little creatures that are blue and gray in color.
Each with a small, clear fin that catches the wind and pushes them wherever the breeze blows. Most of the time, that's harmless. But when the wind shifts toward land, beaches become overrun with thousands, sometimes millions, of these drifting invaders. Despite their jellyfish appearance, Vala aren't true jellies. They're colonial organisms, made up of specialized units that function together, a single creature built from many parts. Creepy in concept, striking in appearance, and totally unexpected. Some years, they don't show up at all. Other years, they flood the coast in waves, covering the sand in brittle blue husks that crunch underfoot and leave behind a sharp, unmistakable stench. They're harmless to humans, but their presence isn't just a quirky marine event, it's a signal. A shift in winds, currents, or climate can summon them in massive numbers, and when they arrive, they do it without warning. Spooky find down under. After a wild storm hit Queensland, Australia, locals stumbled across a sea creature that had everyone doing a double take. It was long, stretchy, translucent, and totally unrecognizable. Folks online were calling it spooky, and honestly, that's putting it lightly. This creepy-looking thing washed up on a beach in Keppel Sands and instantly became the talk of the town. It had this slimy alien vibe with no visible eyes or fins, just a wiggly, pale body. At first, nobody had a clue what it was. Theories flew around like crazy. Was it some kind of deep-sea horror, a mutated eel, or something brand new from the ocean depths? Turns out, experts later identified it as a type of synaptid sea cucumber. These weird invertebrates usually live on the seafloor, slithering around and cleaning up debris. But thanks to the rough waves and stormy weather, one of them got tossed out of its deep-sea hideout and landed right in front of some very confused beachgoers. While harmless to humans, their ghostly, boneless bodies and strange movement definitely give off major creepy crawly energy. They're rarely seen out of water, so when they show up on beaches, people start freaking out, and for good reason. Portuguese man-o-war. Every shoreline visit comes with a risk you don't see coming. Lurking just beyond the waves is a floating menace, the Portuguese man-o-war.
A scare in the water for a tourist when she gets too close to the highly venomous Portuguese man-o-war.
A vibrant, drifting trap that's as dangerous as it is striking. It's not one creature, but a colony, fused into a single purpose. Survival through precision and pain. The bright blue float, just the bait. Below it trails a network of venom-laced tentacles that can reach up to 165 feet, longer than the largest whales on Earth. One brush is enough to leave skin blistered, nerves rattled, and swimmers gasping. They move with the wind, and when the wind shifts toward land, they don't just drift, they invade. Beaches become minefields. Swimmers, unaware, find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. Even washed ashore, they're not safe to touch. Their sting lingers, alive hours after death. They're often mistaken for jellyfish, but they belong in a class of their own. Colonial, alien, precise. And their presence isn't just rare, it's a warning. Authorities have issued alerts in the past after unexpected arrivals. Some were found still pulsing on the sand, just waiting for a careless footstep. Every time they appear, they remind us of something simple. Beauty in the ocean doesn't mean safety. Mysterious tentacle creature. You're walking down the beach, chilling in the sun, you see a giant, twisted, alien-looking creature sprawled out in the sand. That's exactly what went down recently in Australia, and folks were shook. One witness even called it the freakiest thing I've ever seen. And honestly, it looked extraterrestrial. This bizarre creature measured nearly 10 feet long and had this fleshy, pale body with folds and ridges that made it look like it came from another world. At first, nobody knew what it was. People were tossing out wild guesses. Some thought it was a giant mutated stingray. Others said it might be an alien life form. The mystery had social media going wild. Turns out marine experts believe it's most likely a whale intestine or stomach, ejected after the animal died offshore. Yeah, gross. But the ocean does weird stuff when big creatures break down. Even seasoned marine biologists were stunned by how bizarre it looked. It's just another reminder that the sea has plenty of surprises still up its sleeve. Weaver fish. Heads up if you're heading to the beach, because there's something small, sneaky, and venomous hiding just beneath the surface. Meet the weaver fish. They're only about 6 inches long, but they're armed and ready to ruin your day. These fish bury themselves in the sand, blending perfectly into the shallow water zone where most people wade in barefoot. One wrong step and you're hit with a sharp sting that can cause intense pain, swelling. And in some cases, people have even blacked out from the shock. You never see it coming. The venom is delivered through spines along their back and gills, designed for defense, not bluff. Once stung, the pain is immediate and severe. Lifeguards and beach crews in high-risk areas now keep buckets of hot water and vinegar close by, some of the only known ways to reduce the burn. The spike in weaver fish encounters isn't random. Experts believe that rising ocean temperatures and shifting tidal patterns are drawing these fish into shallower waters where beachgoers are most likely to cross paths with them. They don't chase. They don't flash warning signs. They just wait, buried, motionless, and fully armed. So if you're hitting the sand, stay sharp, because what's hiding under your feet might be more than just seashells. Monster of New Zealand. Nothing prepared the beachgoers for what hit the shore. A massive, half-rotted creature, stretched out and torn apart by the ocean, landed like a warning. It had jagged teeth, a shredded tail, and a form twisted by time and decay. People froze. This wasn't driftwood or sea debris. This thing had size, shape, and teeth that didn't belong. At nearly 30 feet long, it looked like something dragged up from a world no one had ever seen. Whispers flew fast. Its mouth was the center of attention, gaping and lined with sharp, menacing teeth. The body was too damaged to identify, only feeding the mystery. Across social media, the term sea monster started making the rounds. But once scientists stepped in, the answer hit with quiet finality. It was the decomposing corpse of a basking shark, a peaceful filter feeder, warped by death into something unrecognizable. When these sharks break down, their heads collapse, their fins disappear, and they take on a whole new and terrifying appearance. Still, the moment stuck. Because what washed up may have had a name, but it also had a message. 24-stone sea mystery. Now this one had locals completely baffled. A massive, mysterious sea creature weighing a whopping 24 stone, that's over 330 pounds, washed up on a beach in the UK, and nobody had a clue what they were looking at. This beast showed up on a beach in Pembrokeshire, Wales, and it was a total scene. Huge, pale, and bloated with a weird, decaying shape. People legit thought it could be some kind of undiscovered sea monster. People gathered around snapping pics and tossing out guesses. Giant squid? Sea cow? Alien seal? The ocean's full of strange stuff, but this one really had folks scratching their heads. Experts were called in, and after a closer look, they finally figured it out. It was the carcass of a sperm whale, but it was so decomposed and distorted that it didn't even remotely look like a whale anymore. Saltwater, sun, and time had completely warped it into a sea cryptid. Still, sightings like this aren't just freaky. They're rare chances for scientists to study what happens to massive marine animals after death. And for the rest of us, it's just more proof that the sea's got way more weirdness than we'll ever fully understand. Atlantic sturgeon. When beachgoers spotted a massive, scaly creature washed up on the Georgia coast, jaws dropped. Some thought it was a prehistoric sea monster. Others guessed it might be a brand new species. But the truth? Even cooler. It was an Atlantic sturgeon, one of the oldest fish still swimming today. This ancient beast looked like something straight out of the dinosaur era. Covered in bony plates called scutes and sporting a long, armored body, it had that total sea dragon vibe. And with some growing over 10 feet long and weighing up to 800 pounds, yeah, it's not the kind of fish you see every day. It had washed ashore during spawning season, when sturgeon head upriver to breed, and its rough journey through the surf left it looking beat up and mysterious. Locals were freaked out by its size and armor-like skin, thinking it was some mutant or cryptid come to life. But Atlantic sturgeon have actually been around for millions of years. These fish are like living fossils, surviving everything from the Ice Age to modern-day pollution. Sadly, their numbers have dropped big time due to overfishing and habitat loss, so seeing one on the beach, especially this big, is rare. Even though this wasn't some never-before-seen monster, it still gave off major deep-sea legend energy. So, prehistoric fish or sea monster? Either way, spotting one in the wild is pretty dang epic. Cannibal frogfish. Texas just got a little weirder. A rare, bizarre-looking frogfish washed up on the coast, and this strange creature has people doing double takes. Sargassum frogfish, a wild, deep-sea critter that's not only super rare to see, but also terrifying when you get a good look. This fish has a chunky, camo-colored body, fins that look like legs, and a face only a marine biologist could love. Oh, and it's a known cannibal. This rare find showed up recently in the surf near Galveston, Texas, shocking locals and getting marine experts hyped. These creatures usually hide out in floating mats of sargassum seaweed way offshore, blending in like pros. So when one ends up on the beach, that's a pretty rare event. And here's where it gets creepy. Frogfish don't swim like normal fish. They walk along the seafloor with their modified fins and lie in wait to ambush prey. They've even got a lure on their heads to trick smaller fish into swimming right into their mouths. Seeing one wash ashore gave researchers a rare chance to examine this elusive, bizarre predator up close. For most of us, though, it's just another reminder that the ocean's full of wild, hidden beasts that usually stay far out of sight. Doomsday. Fish appears. Although the ocean hides most of its secrets, every now and then, it throws one onto the shore like a message. This time, it was the giant oarfish, a silver, ribbon-like beast stretching nearly 20 feet with glowing eyes and fiery red fins. It washed up far from its deep-sea home, and it didn't go unnoticed. Locals didn't just stop to stare, they started asking questions. In Japanese legend, oarfish are known as harbingers of disaster, said to appear before major earthquakes or tsunamis. That belief isn't just folklore, it's been repeated for centuries. And this wasn't the first time one of these deep-sea creatures surfaced ahead of seismic activity. The oarfish usually drifts 3,000 feet below, far beyond the reach of swimmers, boats, and storms. So when one ends up lifeless on the beach, people take it seriously. Scientists point to possible injury or illness, but the symbolism hits harder than any scientific explanation. This one showed up on the shores of California, its massive form drawing attention and concern. Whether you call it coincidence, warning, or omen, the moment is hard to ignore, because when a creature built for the deepest trenches rises to the surface, it forces us to wonder what pushed it there, and what's next. The ocean's full of secrets, and sometimes it leaves them on the shore. Which one creeped you out the most? Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and stick around, because the next wave might bring something even stranger.